All right, welcome to the very first support-driven meetup. Today we have a special guest, James Rogers, who
Hello.
formerly worked at Causes, where he introduced company-wide support. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Scott. Really appreciate it.
Great, great. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of what support was like when you joined Causes?
Sure. My name is James Rogers. You can tweet at me at Urban Cali. I Before I did community management at Causes, I actually was doing nonprofit fundraising. Don't tell me how I got into that. I studied geography and city planning, but I landed myself a job as a community manager at Causes, helping grassroots organizers and nonprofits run fundraising campaigns and campaigns to change the world, essentially. So it was a great job because I got to interact with a terrific set of users. But the problem was that no one in the company really got to interact with them on an intimate level more than me or my fellow teammates on the community team. But when I first joined the company, I actually was the only one supporting our users in a support capacity. The other members on the community team were just working with nonprofits one-on-one. They weren't necessarily talking with the wide range of our users, the people participating in these campaigns, beyond just the grassroots organizers. And when I was first at the company, we just launched Zendesk. Before that, we were using Gmail for our support ticketing. We didn't have any metrics, and again, as I mentioned, no one really understood our users better than the small community team that was growing.
Okay, and how long had Causes been around at the time that you joined?
I joined in 2012. We launched as one of the first Facebook applications in 2007. So yeah, 5 years. Already a well-established company. I was the 25th person on full-time, but I was the first person to actually be full-time in support.
Nice. All right, and so it's been around for a long time. There's an established culture. How did the idea for like even somebody else, doing support even come up?
Yeah, a necessity. So I was planning a vacation to go to Costa Rica for 2 weeks, and talking with my boss, we realized that she did support a little bit about halftime before I left, and this other guy did support about halftime before I left. But since I joined the team, no one really understood how support worked and functioned, and we realized that if something happened to me or if I ever wanted to take vacation, other people in the company had to understand the support process. They had to understand how we took care of our users, what channels users communicated us through, what were our goals to get back to users, how did we file bugs. Those kinds of things no one really knew beyond just myself and my immediate boss.
Okay, and who took care of support while you went on vacation?
When I went on vacation, it was my boss and three other team members on the community team. So when it came time for me to go on vacation, we quickly came up with a plan to train the whole community team on support for the 2 weeks prior to me leaving on vacation. So it's completely possible to train anyone in support in 2 weeks, especially if you have them pairing with you at least for a few hours a day. And that's what we did. I would basically pull people aside for a few hours a day, and they would shadow me. And the first day, it was just them shadowing me and seeing how I answered the tickets, the kinds of tickets that would come into support, the issues we'd have. And then on the second or third day, I actually had them responding to users. So then they got comfortable with the tone, interacting with users, because a lot of people sometimes are a little scared by support because they're afraid that they're giving the wrong answer. And I took that as an opportunity to kind of create a culture of support, of being just honest with users. It doesn't have to be a science. It's all about just being a person, talking with another person, and being helpful. And that's really all they needed to understand, to be helpful.
Okay, and so was the intention of this for you to have people cover you while you were gone, or were they going to kind of keep helping you even after you came back?
At first, it was just to take care of things while I was gone. But then we realized the benefits. We realized that just having someone in support a few hours a week improved their jobs because through their interaction with users on a regular basis, if their job, was say marketing, they would better know how to market to these people because they understand a little bit more of how they use the tools, what they're trying to get out of the tools. And on the community team, for the people that were just working with nonprofit partners, they got to interact with the people participating in these campaigns, and they got to figure out quickly what those people cared most about in the campaigns that they were participating in on through causes. So that helped them strategize better with nonprofit partners. And through that, when I came back, we decided, okay, well, that's great. I'm going to focus on scaling support more so, and professionally develop more myself and give people more of an opportunity to help me out and support on a regular basis. And that's when we started creating the full Delta Force team. We called them the Delta Force. This was the volunteer group of people outside of just me that wanted to get involved.
All right, so let's kind of take it back in time to, all right, so you go on vacation, these people are kind of covering for you while you're gone. You
Mm-hmm.
come back, and then did other people just start coming out of the woodwork to kind of help you with tickets, or like what happened?
Yeah. At first, we just kept it with the community team. We really wanted to refine our process and make sure that this was something we can scale beyond the community team to um, departments and individuals that weren't so closely aligned with community. How could we get
Mhm.
engineers or marketing involved if we didn't quite have things, um, you know, right with the community team doing support?
Right.
So we did just support through the community team for at least 3 or 4 months, and they just did email support. And it was only up until the time that we decided to relaunch the product and we instituted tools like OLARC chat that we started to think, oh, well, maybe when we relaunch, this is an opportunity to get leadership to ask everyone in the company to kind of get involved and to evangelize support more so as an opportunity to help our users through this awkward moment of completely changing the product around.
Okay. And um, the person that you were reporting to, your boss, were they also the boss of you know, of the community team as well?
Yeah, so at that time, I was just a community manager and I reported to the head of community and support.
Okay. Okay, so I mean, it seems like it would be an easier sell, right? If there's one boss, right, and they believe in kind of the value
Uh-huh.
of it, right? And and after you came back, how often were the other people in community, how often were they kind of getting into the queues and answering emails?
Yeah, each person had a dedicated day, and for 2 hours on that day, in the later morning, early afternoon, they would be doing email tickets. And at the end of their shift, around 2 o'clock, the final hours would be the opportunity for me to go in and answer anything that was left. And this ensured that we hit our goal of responding to users within 24 hours. And actually, it helped that goal further because it wasn't just me. So we actually were hitting our target at 12 hours first reply time, which was pretty great.
Okay, great. And then, when you had this new release coming up, how, what happened there to kind of, get other teams beyond community to get involved into with support?
Yeah. So right before we were planning on relaunching, my boss at the time actually let me know that she was leaving the company, and it was my
Nice.
time to actually lead support.
Okay.
And so this was a good opportunity to work with her in her final weeks and kind of creating a plan for how we
Mhm.
were going to grow Delta Force beyond the community team. And that first started with a conversation with the CEO. So sitting him down,
Mhm.
telling him the benefits of getting the whole company involved, and also letting him know that it's not necessarily everyone in the company. Our model was that giving people the opportunity to get involved in support. Um, and so he gave him his send off or his endorsement, And then we basically created a set of lunchtime talks where I invited everyone in the company to join at least one of the three that I had for a week. And during that 30 minutes, I just went through a quick presentation as to why support's awesome, why our users are awesome, how this helps you in your role. This is our goal. We want to have 40 hours of chat coverage Monday through Friday for the first month after we relaunch. Will you help us? Join the Delta Force. And we waited
Nice.
for people to email us. We didn't strong arm anyone. We didn't nag anyone. We basically just gave them the information and asked them to join if they wanted to.
Right. I think you bring up a great point where the company's been around for a while. Um, and so it's how do you kind of get that idea of other people kind of getting
Yeah.
involved in support, right? Because it would be pretty hard, I think, to kind of try to convince your CEO to kind of like say everybody should be doing it, right? And it should just be a new mandate kind of thing.
Yeah, it should never be mandated. And the model we also had was we gave people different opportunities, whether it was passive or active, to get involved in support. So the passive opportunities were, every interaction we had through Zendesk would fire off to a campfire chat room, or maybe even a Slack channel now, since Slack allows for integration with Zendesk. So engineers, while they're waiting for code to deploy, they can just go and hang out in the channel and see what kinds of conversations we're having with users right then and there. They're not actively responding to users, but they're still learning from support. Or I would hold public chat hours. So with Olark during lunch, I would just hang out on Olark, and I would just project on the we had lunches together as a team. So I would just project my chat conversations with users. So while people are eating lunch, they can just, see how we're talking with our users, or actively. So if they wanted to email users and handle email support, that's great. It takes more commitment. Or if you want less commitment, you can sign up for chat hour.
Right. Great. And so what was the reception after after the first kind of like presentation at lunch?
Yeah, it was remarkable because engineers were there, and engineers
Hmm.
really cared, and they wanted. Having the engineers there was great because they brought in their frame of mind to the table, and they said, how could I as an engineer make support better? How can I make it more efficient? And we never had the opportunity to have those kinds of conversations with engineers before. It was only until they actually got to understand the support process better that they say, hey, what if we did this? And what if we gave you this tool? It takes you that long to answer these types of questions. I could just build this tool in 5 minutes. And that was probably one of the most exciting things we got out of these lunchtime talks alone, is that even if engineers weren't signing up for chat hours, they at least were talking with me as the head of support and saying, how can we help you as a team?
Nice. Nice. So I mean, I think that's great because a lot, for a lot of companies, right? Like they don't really get to see what happens in support, and a lot of times, with you as the manager, right? You might tell your boss, you might tell the CEO, or it
Yeah.
kind of goes up, right? But it doesn't really, the person that's kind of working on that feature may never hear about the problems that that users are having with it.
Yeah, exactly. I really encourage anyone, at the very least, to just have a lunch and learn chat conversation, to just invite people in the company to learn a little bit more about support, and highlighting the great work that support does in every company.
Cool. And how often would you do these? Were they weekly or biweekly or?
Yeah, so this was just to drum up excitement, and to recruit members for our Delta Force team, because our goal was Monday to Friday, 40 hours of chat coverage. That's impossible to do unless we have a big team. And we also don't want people on chat for more than a few hours a day.
Mhm.
So through these lunchtime talks, I was able to drive up recruitment, and through that, I basically would just send off all staff emails kind of showcasing the work that Delta Force was doing, once a month during our all staff meetings for 5 minutes. I'd kind of just stand up and recognize the Delta Force team members. During our engineering stand-ups, I would go in there and join them just so I can give a shout out to an engineer that helped us out through
Nice.
support. So it was kind of just like every now and then. There was really no routine meeting. However, when the community team was involved in email support, and email support is a bigger beast than chat because the handoff is a lot more awkward. Ideally, the person answering the email, you want them to stick with the customer until resolution. So when it was a small community team doing support, then we would meet once a week and kind of just have a quick 30-minute
Okay.
retro of what issues did we face this week, what do you guys need to understand, what new product releases do we have next week, and this kind of would get the whole small support team um, on the same page.
Okay. And and so now you have all these people coming to you, and volunteering. How much time would they spend? Like, what was kind of like a typical tour of duty like for these people?
Yeah, so I created just on a big piece of cardboard a schedule with post-it notes with people's names, and I created a calendar for the week of basically hour slots people can sign up for. And once a week on Monday, I'd say, hey, it's time to sign up for chat hours, and people would just on their own accord just go up to the board, put their post-it, on the hour or two that they would cover, and they would cover about 2 or 3 hours throughout the week at different times. We didn't really have a set schedule because we know people's schedules change,
Hmm.
if not daily, weekly. So we made it always open and volunteered. Me and an intern I hired at that time specifically just for relaunch and helped me out with relaunch support capacity. Her and I individually covered 4 to 5 hours a day, and the volunteer team would cover the rest.
Nice. Okay. And so you have these people you know coming in that probably have not done support or anything support related before this. How did you get them up to speed?
Yeah, wikis are awesome resources. Having a individual email for the Delta Force team, so we created a Delta Force at causes, and every week or whenever there is something that needed to come to the attention of everyone, maybe a high priority bug, I would shoot off an email. In fact, every bug that I filed, I would CC Delta Force so that the team would always be aware of issues that were going on in the ecosystem. Or if there was something that we needed a little bit more info about, we needed to investigate this issue further, I'd say, hey, anyone covering chat today, I just send them a direct email and say, hey, look out for these things.
Okay. And you know, and with that, did you find anybody who was kind of had more difficulty or more challenge kind of getting up to speed on it and kind of getting the right tone, or was it all pretty smooth sailing?
Um, it was actually fairly smooth sailing. In terms of tone, I know there's different philosophies in the support world as to, the company has like this united tone. Um, I think that's true to an extent, but you also don't want to make your support agents to feel incapacitated by those guidelines, tone guidelines. I think so long as you have the general philosophy that, be kind, be human, be genuine, helpful, then everything else will kind of fall into place. Yeah, maybe someone could have explained things a little bit better. I wouldn't necessarily nag on them about it. I just say, hey, I know that you said that this was the issue, but I think actually this was, or you could have explained this, just like this, just kind of on the side, not really like just as a way to improve. And they would always be thankful for that. Oh, thanks. I didn't know if that was right, or I was wondering how I could phrase this better. And a lot of times people would just come up to me and ask before they would type to the user, and that always helped too because we'd craft language together and on the fly. And I encourage people to come up to me whenever as a resource. I didn't want people to feel left alone.
Okay, nice. And then I think in your UserConf talk, you also had mentioned that you started introducing it with new hires, right? So you're getting people right when they're coming into the company?
Yeah, so once we started getting this Delta Force team beyond community, we said let's take it a step further and truly become company wide and change the culture from day one. And our CEO endorsed a plan to onboard every new hire in support. the way we did it was depending on your role in the company, you'd have a different amount of hours or one-on-one time with me. If you're an engineer, your time is very precious. We need you to just get on and start coding right away. You spend 1 hour with me. I basically give you a quick one-on-one on support, what our goals and benchmarks are. How do you get involved? Here's our Slack channel. You can read the conversations. Or, hey, you want to do chat? You can. If you're in marketing or if you were working with nonprofits, very closely, then you'd have 3 hours with me, and you actually would get to email and chat with our users either through email or on chat.
Right. And what if you were an executive? What if you were a VP?
If you're an executive VP, we didn't actually hire anyone at that time,
Okay.
but I would have said that they would have to do the full 3 hours with me.
Okay. And how did that work out? Was it did you face any resistance? Did you face any kind of challenges with having people do support when they first joined?
Yeah, the only time I really felt a little bit of resistance was when we hired this head of design. So he wasn't like a VP, but he was in the business for quite some time, and he sort of thought that the hour he was spending with me was kind of useless, and I still spent the hour with him. I still told him he needs to meet with me, and at the end of it, he really appreciated and enjoyed the experience talking with our users. And I think especially as a designer, it's important for a designer to interact with users directly. No matter how much you're in the business and understand usability, the usability caters to the user type. And you need to understand the user before you can actually create an experience for them that's better.
Right. And okay, so let's kind of go back to the whole recruiting thing, because there's some talk in the chat room now about how that's great when it works, but it might not work everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And so can you kind of describe some of the tactics that you used or some of the approaches that you took with it? Was it just the same approach, kind of just doing it consistently, or did you try different things?
For the recruitment part?
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I didn't really have to do anything beyond the first 3 lunch and learns for recruitment. The all staff emails kind of showcasing the work of Delta Force, people just would naturally come up to me and say, hey, I'm interested in getting involved. And this would be, a month after Delta Force, actually launched. Or they would see people putting their names on the chat schedule, and they'd say, hey, I want to be a part of that team. How do I get involved, James? So I never really had to strong arm anyone, which was great. It was kind of like, I don't know if it was peer pressure or leadership actually taking the time to endorse this publicly and across the company. Maybe people were having interactions with their managers and saying, hey, maybe they're being encouraged by their management. I don't really know. Because I did ask managers to encourage their team members, but I didn't want them to be feel as though they had to do this, but to, if they felt as though it would improve their team members' work, then take it as a suggestion, and people naturally gravitated towards the idea.
Okay, and when you have so many people kind of coming in and coming out of with support,
Mm-hmm.
like, did you have to change anything with the way that you worked? Kind of having all this temporary help.
Yeah. No, not really. I essentially had the Delta Force team was just an extension of myself. They helped me. They didn't inhibit me, and they were never a burden. I was there to serve their needs. I didn't manage them individually. It's just more of I found ways to ensure that communication stayed open across the team, and so long as communication was open, then everyone was on the same page, and I didn't ever have to really create more work to deal with people coming and going. The onboarding and the training was always the same from day one until the day I left. It was a Google Doc that basically had all of the instructions for OLARC chat that you needed to know. And at the bottom, it's like, need more help? Ask James, or ask fellow Delta Force members. And the team would help each other out, which is great too. It wasn't just me, but it was a full team effort, and that was really inspiring as well.
Nice. And you know, what kind of reactions did you get from the people who participated in this?
Yeah, excitement actually. I remember one of our product managers, Emily. She was like just after she had her first conversation with her users, she was jumping on the ground and said, "I helped this person. This is great. How can I do this more?" It was like a high for her. You know, she was so excited to, you know, as a product manager, she's building these great tools for the users, but she never actually got to talk with the users she was building the tools for, and that was euphoria for her. And same with our engineers. We find the same kind of sentiment of, wow, I finally got to talk with the person using the tool that I built, you know, that the code that I deployed. They actually got to understand the importance of fixing bugs, not because support would stop nagging them, but because they actually talked with the person that brought the bug to our attention. And they took that as a responsibility not to support, but to that person as an individual. So it really humanized our users across the company, and I think everyone kind of gained greater empathy and excitement through that process.
Nice. And so if you had to do it again, or if you had to give tips to somebody who's looking to do it, what tips would you give to somebody?
Yeah, make support fun. I know that support on the cover is not fun. It's not sexy. It's not a job anyone really wants, but it really is fun. It's an opportunity to make the product more personable. It's the opportunity for you to actually humanize the product. And so I'd say so long as you make support fun and you don't strong arm anyone into doing it, people will naturally want to get involved because they love being a part of fun things. Definitely recognize the people helping you out as much as you can, whether that's all staff thank yous, whether that's, you know, giving them a little candy bar, a beer at the end of the day, whatever it is. Just make sure that you thank the person individually and then to the company as well. If you can, have your leadership publicly endorse the work that people are doing to help out and support, because no one has to do this, no one has to help you out, but it's really important for leadership and you as the person leading support to showcase the benefits as to why this helps the company, not just support but the company, and the people doing it as well. And don't expect everyone to get involved. No one is, not everyone wants to deal with people in the support capacity, and that's fine. Uh, but that still doesn't mean that you can't give them an opportunity to get involved, and nor should it mean that you don't want them to not ever be involved. While they're an engineer that doesn't want to email people directly, they're still interested in helping you out, especially if you keep reaffirming the benefits of helping out support. And set ambitious goals. No team is truly at its full potential without ambitious goals. And celebrate wins when you hit those goals. So when we hit 40 hours Monday to Friday chat support, we celebrated as a team. We gave beers all around, high fives, whatever it is. Just make it known that you're an ambitious team, you're hitting your targets, and everyone's having fun.
Nice, nice. And I think one of the things that was kind of different about how you do, or how you kind of rolled it out compared to how I've heard other companies do all hands support, is that you've got these like hour slots, so it's like really flexible for
Mm-hmm.
people to kind of get in and say like, yeah, I can, I've got like this time between these two meetings, so I can like just jump in and help
Yeah.
out. Versus like with a lot of other ways that people do it, it tends to be like all day or or a week or something.
Yeah, and putting those kinds of restrictions on your team may not help you out in the long run. And I don't know how sustainable it is either. That may not be the case because we didn't do it that way. But I know with chat, at least, scheduling hours was really easy and simple to do. With email support, you kind of need a little bit more of resources dedicated to it. You need people to do more than just an hour, because it takes some time to get into the groove with email support. But the great thing about chat support is that while no one's chatting with you, people can continue their work. So engineers loved it because all it really meant was they were just waiting for someone to chat with them. And if they helped one person for that hour, they loved it.
Nice, nice. And so did you? Did they kind of exclusively do chat, or would some of them also do email?
Yeah, well, during our relaunch, because the issues were so complex, email support was just myself and the intern that we hired just for a few months. And then chat was completely just Delta Force team and myself and the intern.
Great, great. That's pretty. I love that idea because a lot of teams want to do chat, but they feel like it's such a time, sink, if you will, or it just takes so much time. If you
Yeah,
can't spread that out across the company, then it seems a lot easier to kind of get it off the ground.
yeah, and tools like Olark make it really simple and affordable as well. I think Olark was only like $12 or something. It really costs us nothing in comparison to what we were paying for Zendesk. And what's great with Olark is that you can easily integrate it with, Zendesk or any other ticketing managing tool you're using.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being the first featured guest on the support-driven meetup, James.
Thanks for having me, Scott. It's been a lot of fun.
Great. And where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, you can tweet at me at Urban Cali. I'm also on LinkedIn, James Rogers. I'm freelancing right now for usability and support as well. So if you're looking for someone as a freelancer, shoot me a chat. You can also email me at jamesrichardrogers@gmail.com.
Great. And thank you so much for checking out our very first meetup. If there's any questions we didn't get to, James will be hanging out in the chat room for a bit. Right.
Thanks for joining, guys.